Well, welcome along to Donington Park, everybody. We've got round 15 of the 2025 GT Cup Championship coming up for you very shortly. That will be the first of 4 races here this weekend. Last time out, we were at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit, where we utilised a different format. 2 sprint races with that 100-minute race. So let's look back at some of the highlights from the Silverstone 100. Peter Ursig and Darren Kell that lined up on pole position for the Silverstone 100. Lights were on the gantry and away and racing for the second 100 race of the season. It was Darren Kell that took the early race lead from Peter Ursig there in second position, and Dominic Paul making his return to GT Cup, slotting the Lamborghini through into third place. There was an attack though for the lead of the race from the Brabham of Paul Bailey, who squeezed his way through on the run in towards Maggots and Beckett, and then Darren Kell would come under attack from Dominic Paul as they went up towards Stowe Corner. The Lamborghini through and on the inside, and then also taking the opportunity to try and squeeze his way through was the Audi in the hands of Peter Ursig. The rain had started to fall a little bit, and Darren Kell just started to ease his way back into contention. He got back past Peter Ursig, he got past the Lamborghini of Dominic Paul, who then had a spin as he came out of Village and up towards the loop. He would continue in the race, but it wouldn't be the end of his drama. Peter Ursig re-attacking Darren Kell into the braking area for Club Corner would put the Audi back ahead once more, and the top 3 would all continue to squabble, with Paul Bailey losing the lead of the race as Peter Ursig in the Audi went through, and Darren Kell then took the opportunity to squeeze his way through as well. For Dominic Paul, the dramas continued. A significant engine failure on board the Lamborghini would bring an end to his weekend, but the race for the lead would still continue. The Audi of Peter Ursig and the McLaren of Darren Kell still busy squabbling away as we got towards the pit window, with both drivers diving into the pits at exactly the same time. Darren would hand over to son James, Peter Ursig would hand over to the pro Marcus Clutton, the weather would close in, and the Brabham, down the Hanger Straight in the hands of David Brabham, would lose a wheel. That would bring about a brief safety car period, and when we got the race back underway, a shorter pit stop meant the GCAT Racing Porsche was in the lead, but was under attack from Marcus Clutton. But right the way around the outside of both went James Kell at the wheel of the track-focused McLaren on what was a very damp circuit. But it wasn't long before the sun came out and the McLaren was on course for victory in our second 100-minute race of the 2025 season. James and Darren Kell missed out on victory in Donington Park in the 100 by 24 thousandths of a second. They corrected that here at Silverstone and came through to claim a win in what was just their second victory of the 2025 GT Cup Championship season. So there we go, there's some of the highlights from a fantastic Silverstone 100 race. Some of those drivers also join us on the grid this weekend, and we managed to catch up with a few of them to gauge their reaction about Silverstone 100, their 2025 season, and Donington Park this weekend. So Simon, we've seen you do great things so far this season in the innovation racing with Cresta Ginetta. A new teammate for you this weekend though, Mike Chalkiopoulos joins the team.
Yeah, that's right, Mike's Greek. He's just new to the car racing. We're getting him ready for next year, for a full campaign next year.
It's been a good season for you guys, hasn't it? Racing with Ray Harris, some good group wins along the way.
Yeah, we've had some wins, lots of podiums. You know, we've asked to have a mixed array of drivers, but we were planning for that just for the first season, just to get us going off and get started for this year, and then going into next year.
We head towards the end of the 2025 championship season. What's your thoughts on what the season's looked like for yourself and Ray Harris, who of course has joined you in the car for a good chunk of this year?
Yeah, it's been a really good year for year one. We're a new team. We're currently sitting third in the team's championship, third in GTH and second in GTA. So we've had a really good season for our first season.
And Mike, your thoughts on him so far?
Yep, he's like I say, he's not done much in a car, so he's just learning. So he'll get there.
I suppose, you know, you look at what he's done in the past in Greece with some hugely successful karting in the past. It's not too much to adapt, is it, to the Ginetta on slick tyres?
Not too much, but you know, to be right at the top with these boys at the top, it's, you know, they're on the best pace possible. So to get to that stage, there's some adaptations needed.
I'm pleased the 2025 season has gone well for you. All the best this weekend at Donington Park.
Thanks a lot. Cheers.
Jack, great to see you back out in GT Cup again this weekend at Donington Park. Part season with us in 2025, and you were knocking on the door of that first group win at Silverstone.
Yeah, we had a couple of problems at the beginning of the year with parts, and we missed the first 2 rounds. Snetterton was a good weekend, and yeah, like you say, Silverstone, we was really getting close. We was in P1, we had a problem with the starter motor on the pit stop, and yeah, we just lost out, but it was good still.
One that got away. You can rectify that though here at Donington Park, and then of course our season finale at Snetterton in a few weeks' time.
Yeah, well, we've definitely got our work cut out with Fraser there. He's on it today, so we'll try and keep him honest all weekend, and yeah, Snetterton where we like, so we'll be back there definitely.
Obviously you're running under the DWG Motorsport banner, but part of Top Cats Racing as well.
Yeah, so where it was our first season in the Lambo, Top Cats are a fantastic team. They've got everyone wrapped around them. So DWG is us, but yeah, Top Cats, they look after us. They're brilliant.
Your thoughts on 2025? Enjoyed your season so far?
It's been fantastic. It's got to be one of the best seasons we've done so far. Even though it's been short and we've missed a couple of races, it's been great. The paddock's brilliant here.
And 2026, there must be some plans afoot.
We're still looking at 26. It's probably going to be similar, to say the least.
Well done so far this season. Good luck. Maybe that group win might come this weekend.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. Thank you very much.
So let's have a look at the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. The cars will head off the start-finish line and up towards the first corner, the right-hander at Redgate Corner. Then it's Hollywood and that plunge down through the twists and the turns of the Craner Curves. To the lowest point, the old hairpin, where the cars then start to climb up through Starkey's Bridge, Swans Curve, and the right-hander at McLean's. Tricky corner, Coppice Corner, blind entry, double apex right-hander that feeds you onto the straight and in towards the left and the right flicks at the Fogarty S's. From there, it's the heavy downhill braking area into the Melbourne hairpin. You come back up the hill and into the off-camber exit of Goddard's and over the start-finish line. That is a lap of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit that, of course, played host to the 1993 European Grand Prix. It's 2.49 miles long in total. About half a mile of that is just the Melbourne hairpin. And it's also quite undulating. The elevation change across the lap is 35.8 metres. It's a real challenge, this circuit, with so many different types of corners and a couple of key corners that it's so important to get off the corner to carry the momentum onto the straight. 12 turns in total. That's the challenge of the Donington Park Grand Prix circuit. Well, that's the challenge, and the challenge steps up a notch as well because it's damp out there. The cars are heading off on their formation lap in advance of this first of two races that we've got for you today. This is the sprint race, and it couldn't have been any closer in qualifying. Just 39 thousandths of a second separated first from second in qualifying, and the top three in qualifying, including the black and pink McLaren of Mark Smith. He was just less than a tenth adrift. We've got one car that's stalled on the grid by the look of things. David Shaw cannot get the GCAT Racing Porsche fired up, and therefore he is stationary. Jack Gadd is going to have to wait for almost everybody to get by, but Jack should be able to take up his correct position on the grid because he was delayed as a result of that stalled Porsche. Let me guide you through the grid then. We'll see what happens to the Porsche. Finally gets going, but because it's got going now, it cannot take up its grid position because everybody had passed it. Let me guide you through the grid then. Peter Ursig qualified on pole position, and alongside him is the McLaren in the hands of Darren Kell. Row 2 of the grid is Mark Smith in the McLaren, and the first of the Group GTC cars, which is Fraser Fenwick, the championship leader. David Shaw, who'd stalled on the grid, he is not there, going to be in 5th place. He will have to wait until later on. Adam Knight joins the championship at the wheel of the Team Parker Racing Mercedes. And then it's Jack Gadd and Tom Walpole who line up in the Lamborghini and the KTM on row number 4. Row 5 is where we see Frank Morris, and he has got Bill Cayley for company in this race. Owen Hizzy will start at the wheel of the number 99 car for SVG Motorsport, and alongside him is the Aston Martin that will be in the hands of Matt Eddles for this race. Next up, row number 7, Archie Clark at the wheel of the Aston Martin has got Mike Taylor for company in his Ginetta, and then it's Michael McInerney alongside Doc Bush, and all Porsche 8th row of the grid. Row 9 of the grid, it's going to be Mike Chalkiopoulos at the wheel of the Ginetta, and alongside him is Harry Ewell at the wheel of another Ginetta. The number 65 joins us for this weekend. Rupert Williams is next up alongside Ian Astley's BMW, which had to qualify out of session. Not quite sure why the BMW did not set a time in qualifying. And Brent Millage will go off the back of the grid, but I think there are a few cars that have either opted to start from the pit lane or were late changing tyres and therefore have no choice but to start from the pit lane. And I think Brent Millage was one of those that I spotted at pit lane exit. Brent Millage is one, and Bill Cayley is the other one. Bill, I gather, may well be driving, because there was an issue with the car yesterday where the ABS sensor failed in it. I gather he may be driving that car without ABS, which in these conditions, that's going to be hard work, and that may well be why they have opted to start the Uber GT performance car from the tail end of the order. So the safety car is going to bring them round for a second formation lap, because they qualified in dry conditions, and of course it is now damp out there. You can't see much spray coming up at the moment. Once we get to full racing speed, you might see a little bit more spray. The weather forecast for today has been iffy, I think I'm going to say. The car that stalled on the grid, which was David Shaw's Porsche from GCAT Racing, has trundled its way down the pit lane. So I'm pleased to say that the BMW, which qualified out of session, is there. Now, what is the problem with the Porsche? Let's just have a quick look. So, sporting a new livery for this weekend. It's been all black, hasn't it, for the vast majority of this season. There is Greg Caton, the second driver, who will share the car come the pit stop races tomorrow, and maybe later on this afternoon, of course, the pit stop race, he'll be hopping on board. So I think the thumbs up has been given. That Porsche will now have to also start its way from the pit lane. The Audi of Peter Ursig, say 39 thousandths of a second he qualified on pole position by. He did a 1 minute 27.637. It was a 1 minute 27.67 from Darren Kell, 676. And then Mark Smith did a 127.782. So those top three cars were within a whisker of each other. What's that, about 10th and a half of a second that separated the top three cars in qualifying? Now, that was dry. It's now greasy and damp out there. We'll see as to who copes best with it. For Peter Ursig, a great way for him to repay the team with a pole position, because that car, back end of last week, suffered an engine woe at Snetterton. They had to order a new engine from Audi, which was supposed to arrive in the UK at the beginning of the week. It didn't. It arrived eventually at the circuit, having been delayed in customs at Heathrow Airport, and was only fitted yesterday. So they've been on the back foot a little bit, so hadn't had a huge amount of track time in testing. Peter Ursig looking to see if he can try and scoop up a win here. Lies fifth in the championship standings coming into this weekend. Amazingly, has not had an overall race win so far this year. They've had a group win in one of the races. That was at Snetterton, where they finished third overall. But they have not had an overall win so far this year. They've had seconds, they've had plenty of thirds as well, fourths and fifths, but not an overall win for the Audi. Might Peter Ursig be able to do something in this one? Lights are off on the safety car. We've got 25 minutes on the clock, and we're about to get our first of 4 races over the weekend on the go here at Donington Park. The Audi lines up on pole position, the McLaren of Darren Kell alongside. The safety car is about to peel its way left in towards the pit lane area. The lights are on the gantry, and when the lights flash their way out, we'll be away and racing for our first sprint race of the weekend. It looks like it's a good start from Peter Ursig, but it's being matched by Darren Kell, who might just have his nose ahead. And then Mark Smith, watch out for the McLaren. It is going to be Darren Kell who's trying to brave it all the way around the outside at Redgate Corner. He makes a little bit of contact with Peter Ursig as they come off the corner. The McLaren hit the painted curb and went sideways and clatters into the side of the Audi. Darren Kell then ends up spinning further down through the Craner curve. So we've got both cars from the front row of the grid, both, I'm afraid, off in the early stages of this one. And for Peter Ursig, that was such a shame. You know, he'd done all of the right things, and Darren Kell just put too much throttle on when he hit the painted curbs, and it instantly spat him sideways into the Audi. So Peter Ursig was a bit of an innocent party there. There also looks to be a bit of damage to the number 10 McLaren, that through all of this, Mark Smith has picked up the lead of the race. So Peter Ursig will continue. But you can see the damage it's done to the front left-hand corner of the Audi. It's lost both dive planes on that corner, and there on the rear right-hand corner you can see some flapping bodywork on the Paddock Motorsport McLaren. So Peter Ursig continuing. Darren Kell having to do a 3-point turn to get the McLaren back onto the circuit. And hopefully, with both cars that were off able to rejoin, that might prevent a safety car period from being required. Watch out for the cars that started from the pit lane as well, because we've got the Porsche trying to weave its way through the traffic there, which is David Shaw. And we've also had a good start by the look of things from what would be one of the other cars further down through the order, the BMW in the hands of Ian Astley, which, say, did not set a qualifying time, started 20th. He'll have gained a few places by the end of this lap. There's more contact, potentially, I'm afraid, and that looks as though the number 30 car has been spun around. That will be Mike Chalkiopoulos, and the car that probably made contact with him was David Shaw there at the wheel of the GCAT Racing Porsche. He was trying to carve his way through the order. So that's Ginetta pointing in the wrong direction, and hopefully the Porsche will leave the scene of the crime as they head up towards the braking area at Redgate Corner. It's just so tricky out there because it's not wet, it's not dry. It's that one bit as a racing driver you don't like. It's that in-between greasy, horrible stage, and that's what's just caught out a few drivers in the early stages of this one. You see the mud on the circuit as well down through the Craner Curse from where Darren Kell went off. Number 4 car of Mike Taylor, that's the Ginetta. Was originally scheduled to have been a Lamborghini for this weekend, but that suffered engine failure yesterday, so Triple M Motorsport working hard to prep this car for Mike Taylor. So he moves over to Group GTC in a Ginetta rather than what was supposed to have been the Lamborghini. Jack Gadd in 3rd place at the moment at the wheel of his Lamborghini. He's coming under pressure from the Mercedes that sits behind. And again, there's more bits of bodywork coming off there, and that looked as though that came off the back of Jack Gadd's car in 3rd position. So there's a few bits of carbon fibre strewn around the circuit. You run over those and you could soon cause yourself a puncture. Shards of carbon fibre and tyres are not good friends. Number 63, car of Frank Morris. He's working terribly hard, Frank. And then we've also got Michael McInerney at the wheel of the Porsche going well. So wherever you look, there are some squabbles to be had. Mike Taylor now trying around the outside of Archie Clark's Aston Martin. That's not quite going to work. That's Group GTC Ginetta trying to go through and ahead of the Group GTH Aston Martin. And so he's just going to have to sit behind. Archie Clark leaves the door open a little bit heading in towards Goddard's, but then probably gets a better run coming off the corner because he's on the less polished tarmac. And this is all going to be the squabble for what will be 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th coming over the start-finish line. And up to 12th, I think, now is Peter Ursig, who gained 5 places despite the fact that the Audi's suffering damage and might not be handling quite as the team wanted, JMH Automotive. Peter Ursig is cracking on with it here. 3 places gained from the pole-sitting Audi last time through. But he is half a minute adrift of the overall race leader, which is Mark Smith at the wheel of his McLaren. So down through the old hairpin. Archie Clark coming under pressure from Mike Taylor, who is trying to squeeze the Ginetta through. Archie Clark having none of that at the wheel of the Group GTH Aston Martin, because he's ideally wanted to try and get himself inside the top 6 and ahead of the Porsche that lies ahead in the hands of Michael McInerney. So up towards Coppice Corner they'll go. The Team Parker Racing Porsche about to be undone by the Feathers Motorsport Aston Martin, which squeezes its way up the inside. The Ginetta tries to follow through as well in the hands of Mike Taylor, but in a straight line just runs out a little bit of puff compared to the Porsche. And now Mike Taylor might find himself coming under pressure from the Aston Martin, the Evo spec Aston Martin that sits behind. So Mark Smith leads from Fraser Fenwick. This is at the moment just going through the Melbourne hairpin, the battle for 3rd place. Jack Gadd, followed by Adam Knight at the wheel of the Team Parker Racing Mercedes AMG GT3 for this weekend, sharing it with Adam Christodoulou, who will be one to watch later on. And then just behind them is going to be the Group GTH leading car in the hands of Owen Hizzy, who's going beautifully well. Owen driving the Ginetta, and I'm wondering if Owen is already moving over to try and cool those tyres down, trying to do anything to seek out a slightly wet bit of tarmac. Peter Ursig, 2 more places gained on that lap. He's also now trying to dive up the inside of the Group GTH Aston Martin of Matt Eddles. Goes through and ahead of the Arcelli Motorsport Aston Martin Evo. So another place gain there for Peter Ursig. 4:43.2 last time through, so he's still anywhere between a second and up to 3 seconds quicker than some of the cars ahead. But he's not lapping anywhere near the kind of pace that our race leader is doing, which is the Paddock Motorsport number 10 McLaren in the hands of Mark Smith, the American driver. 1:38.534 from him last time through. Sets the fastest lap of the race. Then you can see Owen Hizzy driving sensibly there, straight away moving off the usual racing line onto a wetter line. Anything to try and keep those Pirelli tyres in the sweet spot and where he needs to be. Another place gain for Peter Ursig now. That will put him up into 7th place, I believe, this time through. So a couple of cars already picked off again on this lap as he tries to make amends for the problems that befell him. Up the inside of the number 4 Ginetta, he tries to go, but gets the nose chopped across by Mike Taylor going in towards the braking area for the Fogarty S's. So you just have to wait and utilise the extra power that the GT3 car has over the GTC specification Ginetta. And then ticks that one off as they head in towards the braking area for the Melbourne hairpin. Just squeezes the Ginetta towards the very edge of the circuit. Place gain for Peter Ursig, who can now crack on and try and catch the next car ahead, which will be Archie Clark. And if he can do that, get past the Feathers Motorsport Aston Martin, which he should be able to do, because in reality that's a Group GT3 car catching a Group GTH machine, so it's GT3 against GT4 in reality. Archie will see him coming. He knows that he doesn't need to fight that car, and sensible driving from young Archie Clark just lets Peter Ursig go through, take 6th place away. And for Archie, that still remains 2nd in Group GTH. It's where you finish in your group, where you pick up the championship points. But down through the Craner curves, Peter Ursig's progress continuing from 10th up to 7th that time through. That lap was a 1:43.0 in traffic, which still means that he is quicker than the next 1, 2, 3, 4 cars ahead. So already you can see him edging away from Archie Clark's Aston Martin, which is coming under pressure from Mike Taylor. Mike should be able to work the Ginetta through and past it. So the Triple M Motorsport car going through. And are we going to have a change for 3rd as well? Because Jack Gadd coming under pressure from Adam Knight's Mercedes. It's still going to be the Lamborghini that hangs on to 3rd place. That's 2nd in Group GTC at this stage. And it will still be 4th place and 2nd in Group GT3 for Adam Knight. So that's a Super Trofeo specification Lamborghini up against the GT3 Mercedes in reality. Working their way out of the Melbourne hairpin up towards the conclusion of what will be lap number 5 this time through. And Adam Knight looks towards the inside line, going in towards Goddard's. There's almost a touch from Mercedes to Lamborghini. Jack Gadd sees him coming. They both try to get off the corner as cleanly as they possibly can. And in a straight line, the Lamborghini actually might have a little bit more power. It's not got the same aero as a GT3 car, but it's got more grunt in reality. And Jack Gadd utilising all of his experience to hang on to the place still, despite the fact that we saw a bit of bodywork flying off that car earlier on. But then he runs wide coming out of Redgate Corner, which almost opens the door heading on to the top of Hollywood. But it's still the number 81 Lamborghini of Jack Gadd that is there in 3rd place. And Adam Knight, despite his very best efforts, has got to be content with 4th at this stage, making his debut in GT Cup this weekend. Thundering sound of that normally aspirated Mercedes engine against the howl of the Lamborghini that lies ahead. They match each other for pace pretty much last time through. And if they start to hold each other up, I wouldn't rule out the fact that Owen Hizzy isn't going to be too far away, even though Owen Hizzy is in a Group GTH Ginetta. In fact, I think I just saw a shot there, and it's the Audi. Yep, so the Audi's through. So Peter Ursig now, having gained another place, he's now ahead of Owen Hizzy, who has dropped down into 6th, but still continues to lead Group GTH for the GT4 cars. For Mark Smith, though, our overall race leader, already over the start-finish line. 6 laps completed for Mark Smith, who, for this year, I think I've said it on several occasions, his driving has just really improved this year. That's not to say last year he wasn't a good driver, but extra time in the car, extra time understanding the circuits in the UK. He's not commuting from America anymore, so he really has been fantastic every single weekend so far this year, Mark Smith. He continues to lead the race overall. And then we've also got, by the look of things, the number 24 BMW, which is in the hands of Ian Astley for this race. Still continues to try and make progress. Right, Peter Ursig, another place about to be gained. That's going to put him up into 4th position. He might be 3rd by the time they get towards Redgate Corner. He is. And as Jack Gadd lets one GT3 car goes through, the door is open, and Adam Knight takes the opportunity as well to go through. So 2 GT3 cars going through and ahead of the Lamborghini that time through. And that now means that Peter Ursig is up into 3rd position overall, having been pointing in the wrong direction, and of course with a damaged car. He is continually making progress. A spin for Matt Eddles. That looks as though that's Redgate Corner. So nice and gingerly on the throttle of the Aselli Motorsport Aston Martin Evo. Get it back onto the track. That spin will have dropped him now off the lead lap of the race. He was in 11th position. Owen Hizzy at the wheel of his Ginetta coming under pressure from Mike Taylor. So that is a Group GTH Ginetta under pressure from a Group GTC Ginetta. So that's a GT4 car in reality under pressure from a Ginetta Super Cup car, or GTP 8 as they are now. In the Ginetta GT Championship you see them racing, so should be able to work his way through at some point. He's not going to do it in towards the braking area for the Fogarty S's. You can see the much smaller wing on the GTH spec car than there is on the GTC spec car. And as they head down in towards the braking area for the Melbourne hairpin, again you can see the car sliding around under braking. Owen Hizzy again will do the sensible thing. You know, he knows he's not having a fight with that car. That car runs in Group GTH, doesn't need to worry about it. You can afford to let it go through without too much of a problem. So Ginetta overtakes Ginetta, and then the number 27 Porsche, which is in the hands of David Shaw, who's also going to try and work his way through if he can. And in fact does go through. Nice to see Tom Walpole back out at the wheel of the KTM. He might have dropped off the lead lap with the progress that Mark Smith is making, and on a drying track, Mark Smith, the race leader, has just set the fastest lap of the race we've seen so far, 1 minute 38.215 from the Paddock Motorsport black and pink McLaren, and he is now exactly 16 seconds ahead of Fraser Fenwick in second place, and Fraser has 22 seconds between himself and Peter Ursig. So in the remaining 12 minutes, can we usher Peter Ursig up onto second overall? Now, that seems like a heck of amount to try and close up, 22 seconds in only 12 minutes, but he was 2.5 seconds a lap quicker last time through, so it's more than possible for Peter Ursig to finish in second place. He's got to work hard to catch Fraser Fenwick's Group GTC Lamborghini, but it's more than possible on rate of close at the moment. And we've also had another change now. That is now Owen Hizzy has lost out to the light blue Porsche. So that would be the number 55 car of Michael McInerney that's gone through. And ahead of Owen Hizzy, who still continues to lead Group GTH. So he might have been picked off by a few cars in the last few laps, but he's still leading the group. We've also got a very late braking Porsche of David Shaw down in towards the Melbourne hairpin, who then runs wide on the exit of the corner. Needs to be careful with the throttle application coming out of the corner. He's trying to re-attack the Ginetta as they head in towards the braking area for Goddard's, but maybe a wider line in, try and get the undercut on the way out for David Shaw might be the best thing to do at the wheel of the GCAT Racing Porsche. Uses all of the curbs on the way out, which is a brave thing in damp conditions. The extra power of the GT3 car in a straight line sees him go through, and will now put him inside the top 6. So that is place gained. And now the next car that he'll want to try and attack will be the Group GTC Lamborghini in the hands of Jack Gadd, which again, overtake that car. You're not going to get any more championship points because that's a GT3 car going through and past the GTC. So 10 minutes to go. 8 laps already completed by our race leader. The track looking as though it is drying out still for the moment, but still grey clouds in the distance. Over the start-finish line, that will be Harry Ewell fighting away with the BMW of Ian Astley that lies ahead, and that will be for position. That will be for 16th and 17th place. BMW leads Group GT8. The number 65 Ginetta is 7th in Group GTC at this stage. GTC is for the Challenge specification cars, which are built within the last 5 years, so whether it be a Porsche Carrera Cup car, whether it be a Lamborghini Super Trofeo car, a Ginetta GT Championship car, all of those all reside in Group GTC. Could be even something from like the Ferrari Challenge UK as well. And these two cars are both Group GTC cars, so this is Mike Taylor's Ginetta fighting away with Jack Gadd's Lamborghini. This is for the final 2 places inside the top 6. The Lamborghini 2nd in Group GTC, 5th overall. The Ginetta, hastily repaired by Triple M Motorsport as a result of their Lamborghini having engine woes yesterday, is being driven superbly well by Mike Taylor, who will be joined, I think, in the pit stop race later on today by Will Tregurtha. You see the nose of the Ginetta dip. Over the start-finish line comes Darren Kell, who we haven't seen a great deal of since his spin and that contact at the first corner. Well, Darren Kell is up inside the top 10 now at the wheel of the McLaren, and last time through, the fastest lap of the race as well, actually. So 1 minute 37.036 from Darren Kell. Mike Taylor still trying to unlock the door on 2nd place in Group GTC and 5th overall, but Jack Gadd having none of it. So up towards the braking area for McLean's corner they'll go. Over the start-finish line comes our race leader, Mark Smith, who is treading carefully, trying to work his way past the traffic, trying to get up the inside of Doc Bush's Team Parker Racing Porsche, but also conscious that hovering around and about is the number 65 Harry Ewell Ginetta. So Mark Smith just waits until he can fully plant the throttle on the exit of Redgate Corner and picks off both
Porsche and Ginetta, and has now got Ian Astley's BMW that he'll need to work his way through and past with 8 minutes to go. And Ian Astley will also, once he's been picked off, there'll be another car to pick off, which will be Matt Eddles at the wheel of the Aston Martin. And if Ian Astley can get through and past that, that's actually 4th position. That's BMW going ahead of Aston Martin, 4th position, just as they both get lapped by the race leader. And just off that, Doc Bush has now got himself ahead of Harry Ewell. So this is all 4th position. This is 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th that have all just been lapped by the race leader. You can see as soon as you touch those curbs exactly what happened to Matt Eddles there. The rear tyre was on the red and white painted surface, spins the car round, and that's a blind entry for Coppice, so he's done the right thing. Get the car off the track as soon as possible, and again be so gentle with the throttle application as you rejoin the circuit, and then only once you're fully on the tarmac can you boot the throttle once more. 7 minutes of this race still to go. Mark Smith leading the way by a comprehensive 21 3/4 seconds now at the wheel of the Paddock Motorsport McLaren. He's been pretty untroubled in this one so far, Mark Smith, who so far this season has taken 7 overall race victories. One of those came at Donington Park earlier on this season in the Donington 100, where he won it by thousandths of a second in the end. He took a win, 3 wins at Brands Hatch, took 3 wins at Snetterton as well. Didn't win though last time out at Silverstone because he wasn't present, couldn't make that round. It looks as though he could well be back to winning ways here with the substantive gap he has between himself and this car here over the start-finish line. Fraser Fenwick, who is lying in 2nd position, but leads the overall championship when you look across all of the groups. 23 seconds is the lead advantage, as Mark Smith still has some traffic to deal with. That will be the Jolt Racing McLaren Artura of Rupert Williams that is lapped, and into the pits comes Matt Eddles by the look of things. So Selly Motorsport were expecting him in towards the pit lane. He's got wet tyres on what is a very damp track, but I don't think there's a problem with the car. I think it was just touching that white line, wasn't it, that as soon as he put a rear wheel onto that painted surface, that was what rotated the Aston Martin round. So Selly Motorsport just going to double check that all is well with the car, and then I'll give him the thumbs up and send him on his merry way. Now here comes Doc Bush. This will be for position. This is for 15th and 16th overall. Ian Astley at the wheel of the Group GTA BMW, under pressure from the Group GTC Porsche, and will go through in a straight line. Doc Bush with the extra grunt goes through. So that BMW, if you're wondering why that BMW runs in Group A and not in Group GTH, that's because, yes, it's a GT4 spec car, but it's an older GT4 spec car. So GTA caters for lower specification Cup and Challenge makes cars and will make GTs, but also older homologated GT4s drop into Group GTA, the newer homologated ones running Group GTH. So place lost to Doc Bush, and now the thing for Ian Astley will be to try and keep Harry Ewell's number 65 Ginetta behind him. So still a fight to be had. Rob Garofal sharing that car with Harry Ewell over the course of this weekend. And Michael McKinney has had a brilliant race so far at the wheel of the number 55 Team Parker Racing Porsche. He's now attacking Jack Gadd for position, and this again will be for 2nd and 3rd in Group GTC. They've both been passed by Darren Kell in recent laps, so the McLaren has gone through. And can the Porsche go through? Better on the brakes, but it's the outside line. Be careful you don't bump into each other as they almost both run out of tarmac. Jack Gadd put up as much defence as he possibly could, but it looks like the Porsche has gone through, and Jack Gadd now has lost the place. He's dropped from 7th down to 8th, and has now dropped down to 3rd in Group GTC. And it might not end there, because if he looks in his mirrors, you've still got Mike Taylor in the Ginetta not too far behind. Michael McKinney, though, almost ran wide coming out of Redgate corner. So he was so late on the brakes, almost ran out of room. So Porsche and Lamborghini still pretty much shadowing each other as they head down through the Craner curves. We had a bit of a wiggle from Michael at the top of this lap. Down through the old hairpin, there's a slight wiggle from Jack Gadd at the wheel of the Lamborghini. So that's Porsche, Lamborghini and Ginetta, 7th, 8th, 9th, 2nd, 3rd, 4th in Group GTC. So they've all found themselves together, and this is not just for position, this is for championship points as well, because they are all in the same group. So up towards Coppice, in towards the right-hander, and then feed that power in again as you head onto the the straight, which does undulate. You can see the undulations of the straight as you then head in towards the braking area for the Fogarty S's, where you brake, flick left, flick right. You pick up a bit more of the curb there than you used to, because it's a much flatter curb this year than it has been over recent seasons. And they are closing in on the Tom Walpole driven KTM GT4 Evo, which runs in Group GTC. Tom, who we've seen sporadic outings from in GT Cup so far this year, tends to only do the Saturday though, so hopefully we'll see him out for tomorrow's racing as well. Now, Jack Gadd still got work to do here to try and keep Mike Taylor behind him. Over the start-finish line, the Lamborghini still just ahead of the Ginetta. This is for 8th and 9th place overall. There's only 2 minutes remaining on the clock as well. So our race leader, Mark Smith, will be coming over the start-finish line shortly. And also keep an eye towards the lead of Group GTH. That's just coming up towards Redgate Corner now. Owen Hizzy has been caught by the Aston Martin of Archie Clark in the last few laps. So this is going to be for the lead of Group GTH. The Ginetta just ahead of the Aston Martin. They are not that far behind Matt Eddles, who of course is off the lead lap now as a result of his pit stop. So there's a flash of the lights from Owen Hizzy, who can't afford to be compromised as he laps a further car in Group GTH, because he's got Archie Clark right with him. Ginetta just from Aston Martin as they start to climb uphill towards Schwantz Curve and McLean's Corner. They are on lap number 14 at this stage. The race leader is on his 15th lap. So through McLean's Corner, who's going to win Group GTH? It is arguably, I think, has been over the last few years since it was introduced, one of the most competitive classes. It is so difficult. Group GTC this year, though, is very competitive with all of the Cup class cars we've got. But Owen Hizzy is going to have his work cut out here to try and keep the teenager Archie Clark behind him. Archie with a double programme this year, not just racing in GT Cup in an Aston Martin, but also racing Ginettas as well. And it's a Ginetta that he's closing in on, which is Owen Hizzy, who has largely raced Ginettas, but bizarrely it was announced he is going to be racing an Aston Martin later on this year. So on to the brakes, in towards the right-hander at the Melbourne hairpin, with just 40 seconds remaining on the clock before it ticks to zero. They are going to have this lap and possibly even another one thereafter, depending on where the race leader Mark Smith is on circuit at the moment. I think Mark Smith is just exiting the Melbourne hairpin. Yes, he is. So he's just working his way up towards the start-finish line, which he will cross before the clock ticks to zero. So, yeah, for Archie Clark, who's flashing his lights to try and put off Owen Hizzy, they've got certainly this lap, and they might have another one if they don't get caught by the race leader, who is now onto his final lap of the race, Mark Smith. So, up towards the braking area. Now, damage on the right rear has not really affected Mark Smith. Just light damage, which will, I'm sure, get sorted by Martin Plowman's Paddock Motorsport team in advance of the pit stop race that will take place later on this afternoon. So he dives his way for the 16th time down through the Craner curves. He's not got the fastest lap of the race. That is still with Darren Kell, but for Mark Smith, still work to do as he goes past Matt Eddles, who is now running down in 21st position and is now 3 laps off the lead following the call into the pits from Matt Eddles after his spin up at Coppice Corner. But for Mark Smith, it's pretty much all gone to plan. Up towards Coppice Corner, turns the car in towards the blind entrance, the double apex right-hander. You clip the first apex, you're almost in the middle of the circuit for the second, but get back on the throttle and carry all of that speed down in towards the Fogarty S's. And I'm not sure he is going to catch the 2 cars fighting for the lead of Group GTH. So for Owen Hizzy and Archie Clark, they've potentially still got a further lap to try and work out who wants to win Group GTH. The race leader is not that far behind them, but I'm not sure he's going to catch them. And let's hope not, because it'd be great to see a grandstand finish for the final place inside the top 10 and Group GTH. There's a spin, and that's Jack Gadd that's had the spin. So he's facing backwards, which means that Mike Taylor in the number 4 Ginetta will have gone through. Through go the Group GTH squabbling cars, and then the next car will be our race leader, who will take the checkered flag by the look of things. So Jack Gadd, bit of unburnt fuel just igniting. Through to claim the first win of the weekend comes Mark Smith in the GT Cup Championship. So Mark Smith claims the win. That will be his 8th win now of the 2025 championship season. It's going to be a sizable gap back before we see Fraser Fenwick come through in 2nd position at the wheel of the number 23 car. There goes Frank Morris just ahead of him. Fraser Fenwick now just accelerating his way out of the Melbourne hairpin and up towards the braking area for Goddard's. Jack Gadd finally gets going, but he's tumbled down through the order to 12th position in the end. Here comes Fraser Fenwick over the start-finish line and is about to claim second place and the winning Group GTC for the number 23 McLaren. Peter Ursig didn't quite catch him in the end. I did say 22 seconds was doable, but Peter Ursig in the Audi comes through to finish in third place. Good recovery drive that from Peter Ursig in third place. Fourth place is going to be David Shaw on the run to the line from Adam Knight, who finished fourth and fifth. It's going to be Darren Kell who finishes in sixth place. Seventh place should be the light blue Porsche of Michael McInerney, who will finish second in Group GTC. That'll be a cracking result from them. Good start to the weekend for Michael, who's partnered up with the redoubtable Phil Keane. Here he comes now, over the start-finish line now, with the Mike Taylor Ginetta not that far behind. And as for the lead battle in Group GTH, it is still, by the skin of his teeth, Owen Hizzy that has got Archie Clark right behind him. Archie isn't quite close enough to do anything on the braking area in towards Goddard's. I'm not sure he's going to be able to do a great deal on the way out of the corner. It won't be for want of trying, absolutely, but it's just going to be Owen Hizzy that finishes in ninth place and claims the win in Group GTH, but only by just under half a second from Archie Clark, who finishes in 10th place, but is second home in Group GTH. So I think that's everybody through now to take the checkered flag, including Jack Gadd, as we say, who had that spin at the final corner and picked up a time penalty, I think, for track limits as well. But for Mark Smith at Paddock Motorsport, they will be hugely pleased with that, and for them, what is now an 8th win of the 2025 GT Cup Championship season. Everybody, I think, took the checkered flag as it was in the end, despite the fact that we thought we might lose a few cars at the beginning. But Mark Smith claims the win, a substantive one by over 40 seconds in the end from Fraser Fenwick in second place. And what a recovery drive from Peter Ursig, from pole position to last, back to third. It is going to be David Shaw who finishes in fourth place with Adam Knight in fifth, and it's Darren Kell who completes the top six. Michael McInerney finishes in seventh place ahead of Mike Taylor in eighth place, and the win in GTH just went the way of Owen Hizzy, who was there in ninth but was chased to the line by Archie Clark, who finished in 10th place. Then as we move outside of the top 10, in 11th position, it's Bill Cayley at the wheel of the Porsche that was there in 11th, with Frank Morris in 12th and Jack Gadd down into 13th. Doc Bush finishes in 14th with Rupert Williams in 15th. 16th place went their way of Harry Ewell from Ian Astley, who was the winner of Group GTA in the number 24 BMW. Brent Millage and Tom Walpole were next up, with then Mike Chalkiopoulos finishing in 20th, and just outside of the top 20, Matt Eddles with a call to the pits was 3 laps adrift at the wheel of the Selly Motorsport Aston Martin. So that's it. That is our first race of the weekend, the first of 4 we've got this weekend, the first of 2 today from the GT Cup Championship here at Donington Park. Please join us later on today when we see the pit stop race taking place, and that is timetabled to take place around about 5:30. So until then, we'll say goodbye.